We used to joke a bit that Snoop Dogg was going to show up on our front porch and cause us mayhem because we were destroying rap. I mean, once Disney has done rap, I mean, what's left?
Rap was born in the 70s but matured in the 80s and 90s. NWA's Fuck the Police was a long way from the Sugar Hill Gang. In the 90s, one song generated more controversy than its predecessors, Body Count's Cop Killer. The band featured Ice-T and begins with the following preamble.
This next record is dedicated to some personal friends of mine, the LAPD. For every cop that has ever taken advantage of somebody, beat them down or hurt them because they got long hair, listened to the wrong kind of music, wrong color, whatever they thought was the reason to do it. For every one of those fucking police, I'd like to take a pig out here in this parking lot and shoot them in their motherfucking face.
It enraged Democrats like Al Gore and Tippy Gore, and most famously, Vice President Dan Quayle and Charlton Heston.
Let me tell you a story. A few years back, I heard about a rapper named Ice-T, whose Cop Killer's CD was about murdering police officers. It was being marketed by no less than Time Warner, the biggest entertainment conglomerate in the world. Police across the country were outraged, rightfully so. But Time Warner was stonewalling because it was a cash cow hit CD for them. And the media were sort of tiptoeing around the thing because it was the rapper was black. About then, I heard Time Warner had a stockholders meeting scheduled in Beverly Hills. Now, I owned a couple of hundred shares of Time Warner stock at the time, so I decided to attend. What happened next was against the advice of my family and colleagues, and to the intense dismay of my friends within the Time Warner organization. It certainly ruled out any future work for me with them. Still, I went. I asked for the floor, and to a hushed room of 1,000 average American stockholders, I simply read the full lyrics of Cop Killer. Every vicious, vulgar, dirty word they were selling. I see some of you know about Cop Killer and Ice-T, yeah. Let me give you a sample of some of the lyrics that had some of the older ladies among the stockholders white with dismay, language they had never heard before. I got my 12-gauge sawed off. I got my headlights turned off. I'm about to bust some shots off. I'm about to dust some cops off. The room was death still, a sea of shocked, frozen, blanched faces. The Time Warner executives squirmed in their chairs and stared at their shoes. They hated me for that. Then I delivered another volley of really sick lyrics, brimming with racist filth, where Ice-T fantasizes about sodomizing two 12-year-old nieces of Al and Tipper Gore. I've never heard the vice president refer to this. She pushed her butt against my... No, I won't do to you here what I did to them there. Let's just say I left the room in an echoing silence. A few weeks later, Time Warner terminated Ice-T's contract.
2 years later, Walt Disney Records would release Mickey UnRapped, featuring Disney characters parroting and Disneyfying popular hip-hop songs. Writer and producer, Robin Frederick.
Oh, well, I had done some production for the Disney Channel prior to getting involved with the record company. Back in 1981, I became a songwriter for the series Welcome to Pooh Corner and also Dumbo Circus. And I also wrote the theme song for a show called You and Me, Kid. And so I had done a lot of songwriting. I did about 200 songs I wrote and produced for the Disney Channel in those years in the early 80s. So all of the work that I did was on assignment. In other words, people came to me with a project and said, we need somebody to produce an album of rap music with the characters rapping. That was another one that was brought to me by the head of Walt Disney Records. The executive producer was Harold Kleiner, and they had discussed this. He and the head of Walt Disney Records had discussed it and decided they wanted to do a rap album with the characters that sounded like a real rap album. The tracks had to sound real. They didn't want kiddie tracks. They wanted something that sounded like real rap records. And at that time, 1994, that was kind of the height of gangsta rap. And so that's what Michael Becker, my co-producer on that and engineer, he really did a great job of arranging and playing those tracks so that they sounded real. That caused a big stir at Disney. There were a lot of pushback on that album. A lot of executives did not like it. As far as I know, it was after the album was made. I certainly wasn't aware at all. I mean, I was in the studio working, and we were having a great time, and the executives there from the record department were there. We brought in Whoopi Goldberg to do the lead on Bow Wow to the Beat, and the executives all wanted to be there. And when Tag Team came in to sing Womp There It Went, a parody of their song, Womp There It Is, when they came in, the execs from the record label were all there. So there was a lot of team spirit from among the record label people. But when they went out, I think it was people who were left. I think there was the old guard who was still there. When I was there was a very strong sense of preserving Walt Disney's vision for the company. And this album really broke it. But I don't think they realized how much the old guard was still there until the album came out, because the old guard didn't want to let go of the vision and the love they had for the way things had been. It was a difficult time of change. The original cover art, which no one has ever seen, in the original cover art, the sunglasses are lower on his nose, and his eyes make him really look stoned. And that lasted about 2 seconds. Somebody ran that past me, and I said, "Are you crazy? You can't put this out. Don't do this." And, of course, they ran it past the character people, and they said, "No, you can't do that." And so the sunglasses were pushed back further on the nose, as they should be. There was some question about having him wear the low pants because it was gang-related. And, of course, there was a period of time when there was a gang in Los Angeles that was using the Disney branded wear as gang colors. And that was a very big problem. I don't think it had anything to do with this album. It was much later. But that's something that every company fears, is that what they put out becomes co-opted in a negative way and becomes identified with something that you would never want to be identified with. And that also, I'm sure, played into the issues around this album when it came out. I've been asked to do a lot of strange things by Disney, so I totally got what I got what they wanted to do. But I knew this was going to cause trouble right from day one, because I had a long history of working with the characters on the channel, on the Disney Channel, and I knew that if you took these characters and you put them into the real world, Walt Disney would start spinning in his grave. He did not want the people to remember the real world when they entered Disneyland. You know, the whole idea of you walk in the gates of the Magic Kingdom and you leave the world behind, and supposedly nothing is there that reminds you of the real life outside, where there are cares and troubles and work and all that. You're supposed to be able to let all that go. And that was Disney's vision for Disneyland and for the characters. And so, for example, the character voices of Mickey and Minnie were never credited at all. They were never credited. I finally got them on Mickey UnRapped. I finally got them a special thanks. But I couldn't get them a credit as the voice of Mickey and the voice of Minnie, because Disney, the company, and Walt Disney, the man, always insisted that the characters not be named as the actors, that we should always maintain the fiction that they are real, that Mickey and Minnie are real. And so when you bring the characters out of their world and into our world, it breaks that convention that Disney set up so carefully and so clearly. It was what he wanted. And the company was absolutely not ready to let go of that. And so that's why there was a lot of disturbance over it. I don't know whether the the executives in the record company understood that that's what was going to happen, but it did. It's different. When I worked with the Looney Tunes as well, Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and Yosemite Sam and that crew over there, I worked with a couple of years later. And those characters can come into the real world because they have a heart, they have defenses, they have a sense of humor, and they've got, Daffy's craziness, and they're pushy and aggressive. And so you can make a movie like Space Jam with them, and they can get into the basketball world and the crazy things that happen in that movie. And they can handle it. But the Disney characters are softer than that. It's very difficult to bridge that gap, to bring them into today's world. Yeah, that was the only time I felt like I was asking the characters to do something that might have been, in fact, out of character. And because the actors were so good, they were able to pull it off in character. If you listen to What a Mouse, which is the parody lyric I wrote for What a Man, the hit by Salt and Pepper, the original hit is the lyrics are not clean. And so I was surprised that they chose that song. They wanted me to write the parody lyric for that. But so I did, and I wrote it for Minnie with just her love of Mickey. I just wanted to say, he's the only mouse who can make me laugh, is one of the lines in it. And when she delivered it, Russi Taylor, Minnie Mouse, and Wayne Allwine, Mickey Mouse, when I first started with them on the Christmas album, the 12 Days of Christmas, they were living together. And, we used to kid them about Mickey and Minnie living together and all that. Eventually they got married, and they were so in love. And Minnie was so scared of singing. Russi Taylor was so scared of singing that she would say to me, can Wayne come out and hold my hand? And I'd go, sure, he can, of course. And so he'd go out and hold her hand while Minnie Mouse sang. It was just, these two people adored each other. And you could still, 10 years later, you're still seeing it on Mickey UnRapped. And when you hear Russi sing What a Mouse, she's singing it to Wayne. And there's just the slightest touch of sexiness in that voice. It's fragile and it's vulnerable, and it's just this little bit of sexiness. And when it was done, I turned to the representative from Disney, because there was always a character representative from Disney who was checking to make sure that I didn't do anything that was out of character for the characters. So she was sitting there, and I turned and looked at her, and she nodded. She says, okay. And I was like shocked, but I didn't show it because the characters have more depth than they normally would be allowed to have. And I just thought that was really important. And to this day, I think that's one of the best tracks that I ever voice directed, and Russi just blew the lid off it. It's a beautiful, beautiful track.
Give much respect to the mouse that's made a difference in my world. He's kind and unspoiled, and I know that he is loyal, 'cause you never hear about him with another girl. I don't sweat it, he's always sympathetic. I let it get around that he's a number one mouse for me. I know that no mouse is perfect. I give props to those who deserve it, and believe me now, he's worth it. So here's to the future, 'cause we've had a great past. I finally found a mouse who could make me laugh. I get a kick, he's my Mickey.
We had Color Me Bad, and we had Tag Team. And Tag Team, we parodied their song, and Whomp, There It Went, with permission. So we approached their record label first, and they had just, Whomp, There It Is had been a massive, multi-million selling single, and is still used today at basketball games. It's still something that people yell. And so they had just come off that huge hit, and they allowed us to write the parody. And I was kind of surprised. And so we flew them in from Atlanta to do their part of it. Steve and Glenn walked in the door, and they looked around in the studio, and they looked kind of disappointed. And I said, is everything okay, guys? And they said, well, where are Mickey and Minnie? And I said, well, do you want them to be here? Because I was just going to have them do their part, and then I would bring the characters in, because I expected that we would have a lot of much more time with them, having to get them through it. And they went, oh, yeah, we told all our friends we were going to rap with Mickey and Minnie. And I realized then that there was this huge love for these characters. You know, even in these really big black guys, they really wanted to rap with Mickey and Minnie. So I called Wayne and Russi and said, could you come down to the studio right away? And they did. And Wayne, if I may, the first time I met Wayne and Russi, I was doing the Disney's 12 Days of Christmas, and I was voice directing and producing that album. And they came in, and I was so surprised because they weren't what I expected. Russi was. She passed away this year, unfortunately, but she was this little polka dot round person who give her mouse ears, and she was Minnie Mouse. But Wayne it was like a biker. He had this long salt and pepper colored ponytail and leather jacket, and this big chested guy, and like he just pulled up on some motorbike, some Harley parked out front. And he was a lovely man. And I didn't think any more of it. I just thought, well, he doesn't look like somebody who would be doing the voice of Mickey Mouse. And we had them all in studio at the same time, and it was just wonderful because Wayne and Russi were trying their best, but they're really not up to that yet. And so they were doing all they could, and they were cracking the guys up, tag team. And we finally got a take we could keep with tag team, and then I brought the voices back, and we redid everything with the voices afterwards. But it was wonderful, and I realized then that they wanted to do it. That we got the rights to do that parody because they wanted us to do that parody. And they had approved it. They were fine with the lyrics and everything like that, the parody lyrics. But they really wanted to do it. And I thought that was wonderful that they got to and we got to have them.
Party people! Here's squeaky clean music with full effect. That's me, Mickey, the Mouse Supreme, MC in the birthday party of my main duck, Donald.
We're kicking the flow and we're gonna do it something like this. Donald Duck, back again. Turn up the music, let's begin. Party on, party people, let me hear some noise. Party with Donald, Daisy, and the boys. There's a party over here, a party over there. Tossing Donald up in the air, now trying to catch him, he falls down. Whoop, there he went, hit ground. Whoop, there he went.
Whoop, tag team.
Whoop, there he went.
Get busy.
Whoop, there he went.
Yup.
Whoop, there he went.
Let's go.
Whoop, there he went.
A little louder.
Whoop, there he went. Whoop, there he went.
Come on now.
Oh, I'd be delighted. Yeah. We were talking earlier about learning about songwriting when I was writing for the Disney Channel and of course years later when I was writing songs for The Little Mermaid and for Mickey and Minnie and Donald and Goofy and all the characters. And I learned to write on assignment. And one of the things they did was they asked me to write songs like this. So for Mickey UnRapped, they said, we want songs that sound like real rap records. We want to do parodies and we want to do something real. And so I had to go and study rap. And I really got down deep into whatever was popular at that time, 1994, in rap, because that's what I had to make something that was at least authentic enough. And then put the characters on top of it. So when I was studying these things and analyzing them, I did that a lot during the 10 years off and on that I worked for Disney. Thought I want to go back to writing songs for things that don't have fur. And so I'm going to study songs that are on the charts and see if I can do the same thing. And so I began doing that. I began studying the songs on the charts and seeing what a hit sounded like. And when a radio says to us, we want hit songs, what does that mean? And as I studied them, I thought, I'm going to write this down. And I began my first book, which was Shortcuts to Hit Songwriting. And that was 10 years ago in 2008. And I wrote that book, and it's been used at Musicians Institute and a lot of different places to teach songwriting. And it's been 10 years now. So I decided to revise and update it this last year. It took me a year to do it. It ended up being about 900 pages. So what I did was I broke it up into 3 ebooks. It's called Shortcuts to Hit Songwriting Level 1, Level 2, and Level 3. And I will take you in those books through all of the songs from the last 10 or 20 years, a lot of them, and show you what those songs are doing that makes them hit songs, that appeals to listeners, because that's what a hit song is. is a song that appeals to a lot of listeners. That's all it is. So that's your assignment. Just as I used to get assignments from Disney, a lot of people want to write hit songs for radio. That's your assignment. Study what's on the radio, break it down, figure out what they're doing, and then write songs that have meaning and heart for you, but do the things that appeal to a lot of listeners. And that's how I wrote my books, Shortcuts to Hit Songwriting. They just came out in October, a couple of months ago, and I'm real proud of them. So wanted to mention those. Thanks for letting me do that.